SimGrid VCO World Cup comes towards the business end of 4 out of 5 rounds. We're now in the Midrand province here in South Africa at the iconic Kyalami circuit. It's been around for 50 years. It celebrates its 50th anniversary this coming November, and it's going to be the host of the Coach Dave Academy 12 hours of Kyalami here on the SimGrid. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, and alongside me for qualifying for round 4 of the season, as always, Andy McEwan. Andy, good evening. Good to hear from you as always, mate. Good to see that we're going to be at what is effectively one of the biggest roller coasters, I think, in GT racing history.
It's a brilliant little circuit, this, isn't it? I've said for the last few events that I've covered here at Kyalami on the SimGrid that it's a really underrated circuit. It's one that doesn't get the attention, I believe, that it deserves. It's a great little track. It gives you a little bit of everything. The drivers enjoy it because it's a challenge, but for us mere spectators watching on, it generates really good racing. Lots of places to overtake, but it's not too easy to overtake. You don't have one big long straight where you can use the slipstream or one big braking point. You've really got to work it out to try and find a way past the car ahead. So it's going to, I'm sure, provide a fascinating race. And as we get down now, as you said, to the nitty-gritty, to the business end of the championship, you can't really afford a bad race. And yet this, of all the circuits we race at in the World Cup this season, is probably the least forgiving of them. So this is going to be a real test for all of the teams, particularly those fighting for a championship.
You've really opened up the memory banks for me this evening, actually, Andy, because when we did the economy challenge here, didn't we? Where we had drivers that had full tanks of fuel, they couldn't refuel. Well, this is completely different. We're going to go once around the clock this coming Saturday. But looking at things through Split 1 and Split 2, of course, we can't thank enough our partners at AK Informatica, the virtual competition organisation VCO, who have brought together a prize fund in excess of $25,000 over the course of the 5-round championship. So far, Split 1, 3 different winners so far. DV1 Triton Racing at Bathurst. The team now known as Simware Pro, winning the Thrustmaster 24 Hours of Spa-Francorchamps, and BMW Team G2 Esports winning the 12 Hours of Donington. Top 3 covered by 40 points, and it's Simware Pro that lead the standings on 195 points. Just, that's 6 points ahead of DV1 Triton Racing. Unicorns of Love complete the top 3. BMW Team G2 Esports and Racing Line Motorsport in the 191 round out the top 5. and also just by looking at what we've had so far. So Simware Pro have only hit the podium once, and they've hit the top step at Spa-Francorchamps for the Thrustmaster 24 hours. DB1 Triton Racing, a first at Bathurst and a second at Donington Park. Odox Motorsport, a second in the earlier part of the season at Mount Panorama, a DNF for the Spanish crew at Spa-Francorchamps, and a seventh back at Donington Park. They are still in the top 10. They are within shouting distance of a podium, I think, by the end of the season. Racing Line Motorsport, they've had a P3 this season. That was at the second round at the Spa. The 32 GTWR R8G Academy, the leading GTWR R8G Academy car, this time being the Ferrari, the number 32, has had a podium on round 3 at Donington Park. And the defending champions, we can't forget about them, the 157 entry, which has got the likes of Giorgio Simonini all the way down in 14th. A DNF has really cost their title defence here. Looking at Split 2, again, 3 different winners. McLeod Racing Team version 1 won the 12 hours at Bathurst. Sim RC Endurance Team, the 476 entry, won the Thrustmaster 24 hours of Spa. And Forza Italia.pl esports team in the 500 completed 3 different winners from 3 different races. But as you can see on the standings there, Gardi Racing lead the way, and it's the top 4 Aston Martin lockout at the moment. Black Hawk Racing, Sim RC Endurance Team, NSN Racing, who have actually had 2 top 5s. That's kept them in the hunt for the title. And with, what is it? That is effectively 15 points separating the top 5, with Hybrid Academy not too far outside of this. Black Hawk Racing have had a second at Spa, Sim RC Endurance a first at Spa. We then had McLeod Racing Team running out the top 5, a first at Bathurst, a 6th at Donington Park, and P20 at the second round at Spa-Francorchamps. Hybrid Academy, they've had a podium as well. That is 2 P3s, both at Bathurst and Donington Park, but a P30 really hasn't kept them. It's kept them within sort of a hunt for the overall Split 2 title. XL Racing by Renvelten, who round out the top 7. A third at Spa, but a DNF has halted their charge a little bit, but it might be a little bit better coming through next time around. Project Reborn, a P2 earlier on in the season. Rocket Simsport, a P2 as well. And Forza Italia PL esports team, the number 500, taking a victory, and that was at Donington Park. And there's 36 hours of racing still to go here. There's been some big changes, some driver transfers, and some major developments. Sidemax Motorworks, no longer an esports team, but the drivers will continue to race under the 211, which will now be called Sidemax Motorworks FFS Racing. The driver market's gone absolutely biblical at the moment. George Boothby has moved to Yaz Heat and will drive alongside the likes of James Baldwin, Eamon Murphy, and Yaroslav Honzik in the 149 McLaren. Boothby has now been replaced by Maciej Malinowski at the 191 Racing Line Motorsport car, who actually moves from the 211 car that he raced with them at Spa. Andrea Capoccia has now moved to GTWR R8G Academy and jumps in with Tobias Pfeffer, Giorgio Simonini, and Jordan Sherritt, who will have local track knowledge here, the South African. Kunos have also changed the maximum ballast weights, so the top 10 only now get ballast. So it's 30 if you are the winner at the end of that round, and then all the way down to the top 10. P11 to 15 no longer have success ballast, and that is really proving to be interesting. However, Andy, I think we've possibly got a driver coming in very, very shortly, if memory serves me correctly. I think we're going to be speaking to one of the drivers from BMW Team G2 Esports. I understand we've got Arthur Camera standing by, haven't we?
Yeah, I think we do. This was the team, those who followed our previous race at Donington Park will remember, this is the team that won that race, became the 3rd different winner of the season, and moved up into 4th place in the championship. And Arthur does join us now. Arthur, first of all, congratulations again on the victory from last time at Donington Park. That was exactly the result that your team needed, wasn't it?
Hey, yeah, good evening first of all. Exactly, you're absolutely right. Was a hard fought, but I think well-deserved win, and a win we had to finally get with the car at least. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, I mean, your results up until that point, you had a 16th at Bathurst and 18th at Spa. So what was it, do you think, about Donington Park that really clicked with you, the team and the car?
I think first of all, we drove one of our best races where as drivers we made literally no mistakes, also no mishaps in the strategies or whatsoever. And then again, also we have to say the BOP of the car was doing its favors on the track. So all we had to do is just basically drive as fast as we can. We knew as soon as we did that, it would be enough to fight for victory.
Now, of course, we're getting towards the business end of the season now, just 2 races still to go. You've moved up now into 4th place in the championship as a result of that win. You're just 5 points behind the Unicorns of Love, who are 3rd, but there's a big old gap, isn't there? 45 points to the championship leaders, but there are still a lot of points on offer, so is that still realistically a target for you? Can you still win this championship?
To be honest and to be realistic, coming into the Kyalami round with now the 30 kilos of ballast and not a favorable BOP on the car, we're looking to be fighting for maybe P20. So I think we have to rather look and see who's behind in the championship to not lose a position, rather than to look out and gain something. But I mean, you never know. Target is to stay clean and make the best of it.
You mentioned that success ballast. There has been a change ahead of this round. The success ballast has been reduced a little bit now, so 10 kilos less than it would have been. But around a circuit like Kyalami, it's very stop-start, isn't it? Quite a lot of slow corners, quite hilly as well. So is it still hard to carry that extra 30 kilos?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, taking off 10 kilos is a bit of, you can compare it to a drop of water on a hot stone. It's helping a bit, but it's not getting us close to top 10 or something like that. So yeah, it's still a lot to carry.
Well, we hope that you'll find a way to carry it well. It's a long old race on Saturday, lots of opportunities, so best of luck for the whole team.
Thank you very much.
Well, it's going to be fascinating, isn't it, Alex, I think, to see how that team gets on. But this has been very much the way that it's gone this season, hasn't it? The team that won in Split 1 back at the season opener, the DV1 Triton Racing team that won at Bathurst, they were only 17th then at the next race. And likewise, Simware Pro, who won at Spa the second round, they couldn't break into the top 15 last time. So carrying this ballast has been key. And it's the teams that can do that the best, really, that are likely to come out on top at the end of it all.
I'm sort of going to bring up a little bit of a point here. Now, BMW Team G2 Esports, Sprint Cup Season 3 champions. And they had to work against this situation, let's not forget. So it is about who manages that a lot more. And I think with the way that Arthur was just saying, if we get into the top 20, there's going to be teams that are going to be concentrating on the final round in October, the 24 hours of the Nurburgring. And that is where you're going to find teams that might have that chance. If they're outside of the top 10, then expect BMW Team G2 Esports to come out the rest of the field fighting and wanting to win. And wouldn't they love it to secure that title on effectively virtual home soil? There's so many different teams in this championship that could have an opportunity, but Simware Pro, formerly known as Lada Sport Rosneft, if memory serves me correctly, running in the 41 car, with Grabowski, Ogorodnikov, and Shevchelov. They have been dynamite. They won the Endurance Cup by Thrustmaster quite convincingly. I remember when I was commentating on them, it was. But you know what? Before we get things really underway here for qualifying for the Coach Dave Academy 12 Hours of Kyalami, let's give you an idea of how to tame this roller coaster ride here in South Africa.
It's time to go on board with an Italian thoroughbred as the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo takes us across a lap here at Kyalami. Through the kink, then hard on the brakes from 5th gear at 240 km an hour into the left-hander here at Crowthorne. We go up the hill, sweep the car to the left and then turn it into the right through the Jux K sweep. up towards Barbecue, the next left-hander, 90-degree corner, second gear at about 125 kilometres an hour on the apex. Run the car from the right to the left to get the amount of momentum carry through the next right-hander here at Somerset. Lift off the throttle, drop down to third and allow the car to carry the momentum through before the next left-hander here at Pub House. Down back to second gear once again, just over 105 kilometres an hour before the run down through the S's. Third gear, the left-hander taken just a shade under 150 kph before you go up another incline towards the next left-hander, Loico, where the roller coaster ride truly begins. Down from fourth gear at 200 kph down to first, 75 on the first apex, now through the next one. Allow the car to go as wide to the right before you commit down 9 shaft through into the next sweeping left-hander, which gives you a real good run. It's a perfect overtaking opportunity heading into the next right-hander at the Crocodiles. Back down again to first gear, 85 kilometres an hour. Make sure that you don't clip that curb, especially going through here at Cheetah, because you could go up into the air with two wheels. Ingwe is the final destination, the final corner on this circuit, and then you bury the throttle, up the gears, and head across the line here at Kyalami.
Well, Andy, looking at that lap, we've seen it so many times. It's going to be a killer on tyres. I mean, especially if hot temperatures happen here as well.
Yeah, it's a tough circuit on tyres, definitely, because, as I said earlier on, it's got lots of these low-speed corners, and although a low-speed corner doesn't work the tyres all that hard, getting out of them does. These are powerful rear-wheel drive GT cars, and although they have all of this fancy traction control, the teams like to have that dialed as far down as they can, because ultimately it slows them down. So the drivers then have to control that wheel spin, so accelerating out of turn 2 at Crowthorne, out of Barbecue at turn 5, out of Loicop through the Crocodiles. You've really got to manage that wheel spin, not only to try and keep control of the car, but just to try and preserve those rear tyres. Over a qualifying lap, as we're going to be seeing tonight, it's not quite such an issue, but of course, when we get into the race on Saturday with these big, long 60-minute or so stints, you don't want to be working those tyres too hard, too early, especially if that ambient temperature is high.
Yeah, and it's quite a tight circuit at points here. Going through Loicop, which is the left-hand hairpin, going through turn 10, and then down through Mineshaft. I mean, that's a bit hairy when you're pulling fourth and fifth gear over 220 k's. It's going to really test everybody. But as I said earlier, I think a lot of teams ought to get through this round and get through to the 24 hours. And I'm hearing that, cars like the Audis are going to be quick here. The Aston Martins are going to be quick here. The Lamborghinis are going to be quick here. I think one of the biggest teams that I've noticed that we're not going to see here, unfortunately, the Greek Souvlaki squad are not going to be here tonight. They've withdrawn from the round. But, just looking at the amount of machinery that we've got, quite a lot of Aston Martins we'd already alluded to at the beginning part of the season. It's difficult to say who our bets are going to be on, but it looks like very soon we're going to have things getting underway for qualifying. We're going to have split 2 as always, going first. The top 10 from each split will go into a Super Pole shootout. And for those watching at home, you'll be able to see the actual live timing for both split 1 and for split 2. The drivers are really going to be pressurised, and also one of the biggest things about doing a really clean lap here with 40 odd cars plus on the track, Andy, track management and track position is going to be key.
Yes, that's something I was going to touch on actually, because it isn't a particularly long lap actually. Certainly the first 2 circuits we raced at, Mount Panorama and Spa-Francorchamps, they're both really long circuits. So it's not that difficult necessarily to find yourself a bit of clean air, but around a circuit like this one here at Kyalami, that is going to be altogether a little more challenging, isn't it? And this sort of 2.8 mile Grand Prix circuit that we're using for this event, when you've got such a big grid of cars all fighting for a bit of clean air together, as you can see, it gets a little bit congested. These are live pictures then from the 20-minute qualifying session 1 here for split 2, and so we're looking really at the top 10 teams here. Yes, it's nice to top the times, and you sort of have to aim for the top, don't you, just to make it into that top 10 in a way, because it is so tight. But that is the target here. Get into that top 10 and qualify yourself for the top 10 shootout. But we've seen, haven't we, Alex, in practice, that it is so tight out there. You could be maybe a tenth and a half off the fastest time in this session and not be guaranteed to get into that top 10.
It's a bit like when I used to report on the DTM a few, probably about 5 years ago. You could be a tenth off. You could be either 5th or you could be 15th on the grid. That's how close it's been in the SimGrid VCO World Cup all season long. And there's Gardi Racing's Jakob Osterman in the number 71 Aston Martin, one of the many cars. Looks like everyone's gotten out onto the track. There are 43 cars apparently on the server. There's Robert Ruacana from Space Pace Esports in the number 83 Audi. So a whole host of different machinery. Some yellow flags out at the moment, and that looks to be possibly, I think there's one car out there that's highlighted. Can't really make out the number at the moment, but there's one car that looks to be the number 8, and that is Victor Fockin, I think, in the wheel of that car. So just going over to the Split 2. That is the wheel-to-wheel Aston Martin that has had a bit of a drama. That's not what you want in qualifying, so I hope that Victor Fockin has not got any hardware or software issues, but has gotten going again, so the yellow flag has been retracted. But yeah, I mean, already the temperatures are quite high anyhow, Andy. I mean, server time is at 5:02 p.m, air temperature 25 degrees, track temperature 30. We've had it before where track temperatures have been exceeding 40 degrees Celsius, and that has been such a real problem for managing tyres.
Yes, the good news for the drivers, at least as far as this qualifying session goes, is that it's not going to get any hotter. It's, as you can see, just gone 5 p.m. sim time, so the ambient temperature and therefore track temperature should be dropping as we go through these qualifying sessions rather than on the up. But yeah, that track temperature is going to be something we'll monitor quite closely, I think, on Saturday afternoon. There is the Space Pace Esports Audi then coming out of the final turn, the number 83 car, which is looking for a strong result potentially here, although in Split 2, certainly the mid-engine cars haven't really had a great time. You have to go down to 8th place in the championship, some 40 points off the championship lead, to find the first non-front-engined car, and that's actually the Honda of Project Reborn. There are only 2 mid-engine cars in the top 10 in the points. But Alex, it's been a topsy-turvy season in Split 2. I mean, the team that are leading, Gardi Racing, we've mentioned them a few times, they've not even had a podium yet. They've got a best finish of 4th at Spa, 12th at Donington, and only 21st at the season opener. So it's one of those seasons, and we get these sometimes in both sim racing and real world racing, where no one's really getting into that groove, are they? We're not really getting a clear sense of who the favourites are. Yes, Aston Martins are doing well in the points, but you get the sense that could all change by the time we leave Kyalami this weekend.
Yeah, and head over to the Nurburgring, where you're going to probably find the likes of the Audis are going to be quite strong. Some of the Mercedes that are actually in the grids at the moment. I see Gerardis in the 111 car. That is a bit further down the order, but already the time's coming in, and it is the number 16. That is Maximilian Volmuth, a regular here on the sim grid, 1 minute 40.455. And always being updated on a regular basis that sometimes are coming in. Ruacana is half a second up, comes out of Ingwe, the final corner on the circuit, time to beat 1 minute 40.455, and comes across the line. Oh, pips that by well over 2.5 tenths, 1 minute 40.281, but Volmuth is 6 thousandths off. That is the number 16 car. That's the XL Racing by Renvelten vehicle. Volmuth partnered by Felix Hubbard and Timo Berkel. And I've just heard that Tinko van der Velde in the number 96 Sidemax Motorworks Ferrari is about half a second up. The Dutch driver comes through the final corner at Ingwe, gets punted down to 8th courtesy of Nazarov in the 359. Van der Velde crosses the line, goes P3. 10th and a half off of Maximilian Volmuth, with Ruakana still in there. Sheldon Muscat, another regular. He's had, talking of topsy-turvy season here in the SimGrid VCO World Cup, talk about topsy-turvy SimGrid career thus far for Sheldon Muscat. He hasn't had the four-leaf clover he's desperately been trying to cling a hold to.
No, but that could happen this weekend. Certainly Aston Martins have gone well here in the past. Let's see, he's 32nd, but I don't think that was his first real attempt at a lap time. In fact, he drops down a place there by the end of that one, so he's going to have to try and improve once again. Patrick Schwab here in the 37th place Ferrari. He jumps into 29th, but I mean, look, we've got the top 26 or so all within a second of each other, so we said it would be tight. That's certainly proving to be the case. Alexi Meyer there in the funny Formula 1 bats. Aston Martin goes third quickest, just over a tenth of a second behind Volmuth, with Ruakana, as we've said, 6/1000ths of a second to the good. And Ruakana, Alex, has set that lap time that's good enough to go top and immediately bailed for the pit lane. So is that as good as it gets for him? It's certainly a good effort, that, isn't it? 40.2.
Especially with 11 kilos ballast on that Audi as well. I mean, that's one of the good things. Here's Jonathan Seville for the Pulse SimSport 53 car, currently P11. As I'm just hearing, Cinco Venevada was gunning for pole, ends up in the pit lane. Magoni in the number 521, that's the Wheelspin Esport. One of the several Ferraris that are on this grid. But Seville also in one of the Audis drops down to 12th position. 12th, top 12 covered by just over 0.56 of a second. And then we know how competitive Sprint Cup qualifying can be. Right, get this, top 40 separated by just under 1.7 seconds. Seville crosses the line, goes P6 within 0.3 of a second of pole. Noah Heron from Project Reborn goes up into 12th position in the Honda NSX. There's Loic Van Ack in the eSport Performance Racing Team Audi. And already I'm seeing a little bit of a trend here, because looking at the top 10 here, Andy, 6 of them are mid-engined, rear-wheel drive. Honda, Audi and Ferrari represented. The rest of it covered by Aston Martin.
Yeah, 2 reasons for that, I think. One, this is a good mid-engine circuit because it's tight, it's twisty, it's technical, there are lots of changes of direction that always suits those mid-engine cars. The other reason that I think they're doing well is that they've not been doing well in the championship, so that means they arrive here, for the most part anyway, with no success ballast. Remember, only the top 10 in the championship carrying success ballast, and I think the fact we only have 2 mid-engine cars in the top 10 in the championship is probably actually playing into their hands here slightly. Stein Everink there in the number 180 Aston Martin was very wide out of the Crocodiles, but he didn't invalidate the lap, and he completes it and jumps right up into 14th place, but that's not good enough for the top 10. At the moment, it's the 359 car that is on the bubble. That is the funny Formula 1 bats car that we saw across the line a while ago. Loic Van Ack here, though, is on a lap time that could take him to the top of the timing sheets, and it does by almost exactly a tenth of a second, a 1:40.116, and it is Audi at the front. That is not the front row, remember, but it does at least put them some way clear of the danger zone as far as making it into that top 10 shootout.
Now, looking at it from this perspective, is Valentin Barrier in the number 72 Virtual Drivers by TX3 McLaren that comes across the line, jumps from P36 to P8. Now, we've seen Valentin Barrier in other championships here, such as the Endurance Cup by Thrustmaster, but one of the biggest things I've just seen here, well, it was until Barrier actually got up into 8th position, Dmitry Nazarov and Christoph Verstappen. Now, Verstappen running with NSN Racing, the 214 Aston Martin, currently in the championship hunt in the top 5. They were separated by 9/1000ths. That was how close the top 10 was from being decided, but already Valentin Barrier has just completely swept that underneath the carpet and has changed everything. But the top 10 covered by 0.477 seconds. Nicholas Mangione from Wheelspin Esport rounds out the top 10. We've got just under 9.5 minutes to go in this session for Split 2, and that will decide what happens. But we have seen it before here, Andy, that even in the first 20 minutes salvo in qualification, we have seen it where drivers have put everything on the line in that final last chance gasp in qualifying and really managed to show good their intentions and get themselves into the top 10, haven't we?
Well, because you really want to start well here. This is not a circuit where you can get away with starting midfield. If this was Spa, you might feel a bit more comfortable about starting 15th to 20th, but round here, the chances of you surviving those first few corners without contact, especially, dare I say it, in Split 2, which has had a few slightly chaotic starts so far this season. Mind you, Split 1 did at Donington last time as well. On a tight and technical circuit, though, you don't want to be stuck in the mid-pack. So qualifying top 10 is the first step towards survival, really, in the race. But it's all so tight. We've got 37 of them, 37 cars with a lap time of over 1 minute 40 seconds for most of them, within a second. That is absolutely insane, and this is not even the top split. Into the top 10 there goes Eric Diaz in the Team Highland Racing Audi. He was 14th, goes 7th, but he's still only, half a tenth into the top 10. If the next couple of drivers behind him can find even a fractional improvement, Alex, they will leapfrog him.
Yeah, and at the moment, the person in the danger zone at the moment is the number 69 Honda, Tom Schneider, from XL Racing by Renveld, and partnered with Jan Holter and Sebastian Dreyer for this round here at Kyalami. And looking at it, Magoni's only 12 thousandths of a second behind in P11. So that's how close it can be. Still at the moment. But Magoni is improving. Apparently he's 2 tenths up on the previous lap, and at the moment the car is making its way through. It's going to be close. I think Magoni will be trying to get into the top 10, and very soon. There is Tinko van der Velde, Dutch driver, coming through Ingwe once again. 6 minutes and 50 to go on the clock. And Magoni has gone 10th, but Tinko van der Velde has just pipped Loic Van Ack by 15 thousandths for the top time in this session. It's just over 6.5 minutes to go.
That is exceptionally close. 15 thousandths between the top two, and again, mid-engine cars 1, 2, 3 at the moment. So they are clearly that's the type of car to have. Ferrari ahead of 2 Audis. This is the second of those Audis. Then Robert Ruacana, third fastest at the moment. So he, remember, went into the pit lane quite early on, having set that really quick time that at the time was fastest of anybody. He went into the pit lane and has now come back out for a second go. Jakob Osterman here, in the car that leads the championship then in Split 2, making his way up through the final sequence of corners. The Gardi Racing Aston Martin still looking for its first podium of the season. Takes a very wide line there into the final corner, so I suspect that this is almost setting himself up for his next lap, trying to get the fastest possible run across the start-finish line, having bailed on that previous effort. Tom Schneider, though, he's been demoted now to 12th, so remember, he was in the top 10, then Magoni beat him to it, but now he's been knocked down to 11th as well. Can Tom Schneider, though, get the XL Racing by Renveld and Honda into the top 10? He's a couple of tenths up, we believe, on his previous best, and yes, there he goes, a couple of tenths, moves him from 12th, Alex, to 6th, but I still don't think, with 5.25 minutes to go, that they can afford to rest easy.
No one can, because I'm hearing there is a lot of improvement. Everyone is improving. The track is evolving over. So Van der Velde, first time we've dipped into the 1 minute 39s. Tinko van der Velde goes 2 tenths of a second quicker than Loic Van Ack to take provisional top in the times. It's 1 minute 39.909 on his 7th lap of qualifying. And to be honest with you, it seemed like the Ferrari made up all of its time in Sector 2 on that particular occasion. Dmitry Nazarov from Funny Formula 1 Bats, 14th at the moment in the 359, to come through. And one of the biggest things is you don't want to clip that curve going through Cheetah, because I have seen it in multiple other leagues before here on the Assetto Corsa Competizione platform, that you can do a bit of a Knight Rider style ski mode, 2 wheels up in the air, and Dmitry Nazarov stays in what is 14th. Jonathan Seville brings Pulse Simsport into 7th position, but his previous lap time was actually disallowed. That could have put Pole Simsport into the top 5 quite easily there.
Yeah, and that improvement that you mentioned knocks Valentin Barrier out now in the McLaren, so we don't have a McLaren inside the top 10 as it stands. Christoph Verstappen in the NSN Racing Aston Martin here. He's another on the outside looking in. 15th at the moment. He needs a 10th and a half then to jump into that top 10. But ideally a bit more than that really to try and comfortably make it in. Gianmarco Calzetta is a bit further back. He's at 0.84 off the fastest time, but about 2.5 tenths, quarter of a second then away from that top 10, and he runs very wide there coming out of Cheetah. You can run out onto that grass a bit before you invalidate the lap time, but it doesn't really gain you any time anyway because there's no grip out over the edge of that rumble strip. Has that cost him time? Then the Ferrari driver comes across the line and stays in 19th. Now, what about Dmitry Nazarov? He's got a nice little slipstream here from one of the Ferraris ahead of him, and that, in fact, is a car that's running on a similar pace to him, isn't it? So this could help him out here as he drops down through the mine shaft into the crocodiles now, this right-left sequence, and then through Cheetah. This is where you can really throw away a good lap time by making a tiny mistake. He's very neat and tidy, though, through there this time. So Nazarov into the final corner. He is 2 or 3 tenths up on his previous best. Now that would just about squeeze him into the top 10. Out of the final corner he goes. 14th is where he was. 8th is where he is now. And he is safe, Alex, by less than a tenth of a second. This is still really tight.
Yeah, he actually had Patrick Schwab from the Abgefahren community, 174 Ferrari just up ahead. So that allowed him. Alex Radizzi from Team BitoSimRacing.de, currently P22 at the moment, but Elko Bussink in the number 7 Rookie Monsters car, which has in that lineup the likes of Hinsai and also Luca Tavanari. They are currently on the bubble of being into the Super Pole. There's Vinny Oliveira from the Kings of Asphalt Maxon Oil, running in the Nissan GTR. Oh! That's not what you want to do going through. They were quite a few tenths up. Alexei Meyer from Funny Formula 1 Bats, the number 56 entry. So there's 2 Funny Formula 1 Bats cars that are actually in here. The 359 with Dmitry Nazarov. And here is Alexei Meyer in the number 56 going through. Down towards, has just gone through the S's. Up the slight incline here, through into the left-hander at turn 10 for Loikop. So we now go onto the camera on the front splitter. And we're now going to see actually how committed you have to be going through mineshaft. A little bit of bumpiness going through, but that was at 5th gear at about 220 kilometres an hour. Through into the next right. So into the crocodiles, now through into Cheetah. And just avoids that curb. Uses the rumble strip very nicely. And into the left-hander at Ingwe. Alexei Meyer just over 4 tenths off of Tinko van der Velde. As we're into the last 40 or so seconds of split 2 qualifying. Alexei Meyer a 1 minute 40.521, but there has been a little bit of a change. Sheldon Muscat is about half a tenth off of getting into that magical top 10. So can Sheldon Muscat from FFS Racing make a first Super Pole appearance? Well, time's fast running out.
Yeah, it is, and it's so frustrating. He's half a tenth away from making it into the top 10, and yet it's amazing. That's blink of an eye stuff, but it's amazing how hard it can be to find that time. We're getting yellow flags all over the place, by the way. The 69 car, I just noticed, of Tom Schneider, he's been off the track coming out of not out of the final corner, out of Sunset that was, and Barbecue, but he seems to have got back on the road. Patrick Schwab here in the 174 Ferrari then. 27th, the best that they can manage at the moment at a circuit at which we thought Ferraris would be strong. We at the moment have one at the top of the times and one at the back end of the top 10, but not quite as many of the prancing horses making it into that top 10 at the moment, at least, as I thought we would see. Runs a bit wide there out of the first of the crocodiles, sets himself up for Cheetah, missed the apex curb a bit and bails for the pit lane, and with the checkered flag out now, that is going to be it. So 27th place for them. Remember, if you're not in the top 10 in this session, then wherever you finish is where you will start the race. It's only those that make it into the top 10 that have another chance to try and improve their positions. This is one of those cars at the moment that would go through into that Super Bowl session then. Alexei Meyer for the funny Formula 1 Bats car. They've sort of crept their way up the order, haven't they? They were well outside the top 10 at first, then they crept in, got into the top 5. They had dropped out of the top 5, but they jumped back into that 5th position there with a good lap for Alexei right at the end.
Yeah, just noticed that Sheldon Muscat and Eric Diaz, 11th and 12th respectively. Philip Witzak from Silver Racing goes very, very... Oh, no, that's not how you want to end your qualifying session right there. Great catch by a production crew to catch that one. I mean, I did say about Cheetah being one of those curbs you do not want to wallop, and that is exactly what can happen. You exit stage left, smack, square, front nose in to the barriers.
Very, very easily done, and I'm not at all surprised, honestly, that we've seen a couple of people off there, but that's the biggest one that we've had so far. But I tell you what, that whets the appetite quite well, doesn't it, for what's to come for the rest of the evening. Another really close qualifying session, as we sort of expected, and those top 10 only just over half a second apart. Look, there is confirmation. So it was the 96 Ferrari then that went fastest, and actually a tenth and a half there, Alex, between the top two. So as tight as it is, it does look like that 96 car. It was the only car to dip into the 39s. They have to go into this Super Bowl session now as the favourites.
Yes, but we have seen it before where the favourites do get thrown a curveball. And you make one wrong move, you've only got one lap. It's very much the old sort of like when they used to do Super Bowl for WTCC. An out lap, a fast lap, and then an in lap. And if you don't complete them, your lap gets expunged, so to speak. So let's see if we can head track side, because split one qualifying very shortly will be getting underway. It looks like the timer has started ticking away, but Tinko van der Velde will be the favourite. Top 10 rounded out by Elko Bussink in the number 7 entry. That was the Rookie Monsters. Actually, 2 Ferraris in the top 10, a Honda, 3 Audis, and get this, 4 Aston Martins in that mix as well. 5.5 tenths of a second. Sheldon Muscat was half a tenth outside of it. Eric Diaz, not even further behind either. Valentin Barrier, 13th. Nicolas Magoni, 14th. Benjamin Lutalek, rounding out the top 15. And then looking at it, I mean, I even saw Calzetta and Sivek setting, 3 teams have set exactly the same lap time in split one qualifying. That's how close it can be. And what's more, 43 cars covered by 1.575 seconds. The top 42, Andy, just under 1.1 seconds. And it looks to be even closer here in split one as we go trackside. There's Tobias Grönwald in the car 4, the Unicorns of Love, in the number 14 Aston Martin. Along with that will be the the number 21 Audi. That has got Dennis Schoeninger behind the wheel of that car. Some quite familiar faces. Now, let's see who is actually doing who is out for who in terms of what cars. So Tobias Grönwald will be out for the Unicorns of Love number 14 car. Wonderful liveries as always from that crew. Now, interesting thing here. Tobias Grönwald. Now, I'm going to go on a little bit of a memory jaunt here. Anyone might remember the battle between him when he was still with Euronics, when he was in the Mercedes, against George Boothby and Niklas Huben. 2.4 hours of Imola. I still remember that because Huben stole it from both Grönwald and Boothby, who pitted on the final lap of the race. That's how close it was, but Tobias Grönwald actually qualified in a Mercedes at the SRO Esports 24 Hours of Spa-Francorchamps and put it on pole. So Grönwald is quick. We've got quite a few other drivers in here as well. Let's not forget our Spanish contingent, Odox Motorsport. They've got Alberto Garcia behind the wheel of the 121. Giorgio Simonini behind the wheel of the 157 GT WR R8G Academy. Now the thing is that I would have thought that just from my sort of look here, when you've got the likes of Jordan Sherratt, South African born and bred, will know this track like the back of his hand. You would have thought that maybe Giorgio would have said, okay, let's stick Jordan in the car, see what he can come up with. But that's an interesting decision from the 157, the reigning champions, wouldn't you say, Andy?
Well, it is, but Giorgio's no slouch either, is he? And perhaps he just gels with this circuit. You know, some drivers get that, don't they? That they just find a circuit they gel with a little bit more than the others, and you know they'll have put the hours of practice in. They'll have planned this. It wasn't a roll of a dice sort of things. They didn't play rock paper scissors to decide who goes out in the car. So they've obviously decided that Giorgio's the man for the job, and with his pedigree, you wouldn't really argue with that, would you? But well, yeah, I agree. It will be interesting to see how he gets on, whether that decision is going to pay off. So drivers then just sort of coming through, still working their way, working some heat into the tyres. Giorgio Simonini is actually fastest at the moment, although 1 minute 40.2. Wow. Actually, that's not a bad effort. I think he'll go quicker than that, won't he? But that's not a bad banker lap, actually.
No, not at all, not at all. Alexander Novikov in the 101 car. That's the Silver Racing Eurowash 101 entry. And look, oh my goodness, already Tauscher has decided to come out and party. That's the 211. That is the now rebranded Cymax Motorworks FFS racing car. It's got Kilian Ryan Meenan. You know what's funny? Michael Tauscher was recently announced as a new Unicorns of Love driver. They've got drivers in that team, Unicorns of Love, like Leon Otoki, like Rene Sievert, amongst others. And myself and David Christie always have a penchant for commenting about their liveries. And this round, it's going to be Tobias Grönwald, Jura Petrichenko, and Jan-Marcel Dietrich. And Tobias, like we know, is not a slouch. But Grönwald goes up to the top of the timesheets by nearly a tenth and a half, a 1 minute 40.053. But then already Dennis Schoeninger, recently who qualified for the Adiatsia Sim Racing Expo Top 12, which takes place. I mean, Simonini's now decided to throw his 2 cents in. I mean, look, top 4 covered by just over half a tenth, and you've got the 123 of Noble just behind. I don't know what to say. And Samir Ibrahimi now goes in 39 thousandths quicker and is the first one to break into the 139s. What on earth is going on?
Well, what's going on is we've now got 5 of them within a tenth at the top. That is insane. Ibrahimi then in the Lamborghini fastest, and that's 3 different makes of car as well. It's Lamborghini ahead of 2 Audis, and then a whole host of Aston Martins coming up next. But again, it is those mid-engine cars that have a slight edge at the moment. So 1 minute 39.981 the time to beat. But remember, it's not necessarily about being fastest. You've just got to get into that top 10. It says, I hear Essa in the South African livery Bentley that at the moment is rounding out that top 10. Pierre Moulin here for the eSport Performance Racing team, looking to try and move himself into the picture as well. The first few laps, though, as we saw in the Split 2 qualifying session, don't tend to be the fastest. The track seems to evolve. The tyres definitely will do so. Moulin, though, does find a big improvement there and jumps up into that coveted top 10. But I do expect the final 5 or 6 minutes to arguably be the minutes that really count. Mikhail Novakovsky here then, the 720 car, comes up through or down through the mine shaft, then into the braking zone at the Crocodiles, then through Cheetah and the Carbon Simsport McLaren then. Much expected of Carbon Simsport, I'd say, this weekend. This is a track that suits the car. We know how strong an outfit they are, and it's definitely fair to say they haven't really shown us everything they're capable of so far this season. What can Novakovsky do? He jumps into the top 20, but that ain't enough. He's only 4 tenths off the fastest time, but he's 10 positions, Alex, away from that top 10.
23rd position. Oh, now Ibrahimi's just gone even quicker. He's gone even quicker. Now, just look at this. Okay, top 23 covered by 6 tenths. And I'm looking down. Niklas Huben. Mentioned this name a bit early on. Down in 26th position in the Audi 4 Rutronic E Racing. Now about to cross the stripe. Huben goes P9. The top 10 rounded out by Yaz Heat's James Baldwin of all people. Covered by just over... I mean that is ridiculous. But then you've got to look at it from this perspective. Zahir Essa, 3 1,000ths off of Super Pole, but that's all changed because Luka Vidalik has just gone into 7th place in the number 28 Audi. Niles Noyox is on qualifying duty for BMW Team G2 Esports, currently in P37, and only improves by a position. You can tell by that 30 kilos of ballast. Now, Arthur Cameron was very, very honest about what he said. He said, we're probably looking at top 20. I think that's probably as realistic as they can be in this kind of situation, Andy.
Yeah, I have to say, when he said that to me, I thought he was being a little pessimistic, but actually I think top 20 would be a pretty good result, wouldn't it, based on the early pace? I mean, 36th fastest for the car that won last time at Donington Park. That is incredible, and it's only 30 kilos. There are championships out there that will give you quite a bit more success ballast for winning a race, and 30 kilos is minimal, really, and yet in a field as competitive as this, it makes such a big difference. Jason Lawyer's there in the PPR Esports Porsche. Runs a bit wide. Good to have Porsches racing with us again here. We've got this one. We've got the 911 example as well, which is even further down the order. Lawyers, despite that mistake, finds a small improvement and moves into 29th place. So at the moment then on the bubble is the 191 Aston Martin, Marek Schintz in 10th place. He's got just under 3 100ths of a second in hand over the 92 Aston Martin of Maxime Batifulier. He is then 3 1,000ths clear of Nicholas Huben in the 34 McLaren, who is then 12 thousandths clear of James Baldwin in the next McLaren. It is so close there at the back end of the top 10, isn't it?
Yeah, Moulin's getting closer and closer towards the finish line, and goes P1 by 21 thousandths ahead of Samir Ibrahimi. Audi now at the top of the timesheets. That is, I mean, to be completely honest with you, there is so much change. I think there's been more. Top 39, okay, completed by Niles Noyox, covered by 1.1 seconds. We thought it was close in split 1. At split 2, it's looking just as close. 41 drivers covered by 1.7. And this being split 1, you know, split 2 was close. Split 1 is even closer. And Marek Schintz, I'm just hearing, is a 10th up. This could put him ahead of Tobias Grönwald as he goes through into Cheetah. Very neat and tidy from the 191 through Ingwe, the final corner. Jason Lurs now coming through, 29th at the moment. Porsche comes across the line, P8. Where on earth did that lap come from? Marek Schintz goes P9, exactly the same lap time as Jason Lurs just set in the number 1 Porsche. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, and despite the warm track temperature, it's still taking them the majority of the session, isn't it, to get up to speed? But I think that's as much down to the type of circuit this is as anything else. It's a real rhythm circuit, isn't it? You've got to maybe get a couple of laps under your belt to really find your rhythms and find that pace, and I think that's what we're seeing here. Will this be another car then that is about to improve? Ishmael Labrec in the Elvis Grattan team Honda. We haven't got a Honda in the top 10 yet, but he's only about 4 100ths of a second away from changing that into the final corner. Neat and tidy final sector here for the 416 car, which accelerates out of the final hairpin up across the start finish line. Is he going to get there? He only needs to find half a tenth, and he does more than that, goes 7th fastest then, and just like that we do now have a Honda inside the top 10. But Alex, that car that's gone fastest in this session, I mean, Pierre Moulin, sort of all thinking, and I think, aren't we, that is not a car we expected to see up at the front end of the field, and with good reason, because their best result so far this year is 26th last time at Donington Park. It goes to show GT racing, it's so much about horses for courses, isn't it? If you've got the right car and you're not carrying success ballast and it's a circuit that you gel with, you can really suddenly find yourself an awful lot more competitive than you have been so far.
You know what is really even more ridiculous? That 10th and 11th are on exactly the same lap time, and Jason Lurs got there first before Marek Schintz. That is the closest we've had, where 2 teams are on the bubble, and one of them has set the lap time first that has got them into that all-important Super Pole. I'm sure that Marek Schintz is thinking, I should have been out a few seconds before Jason Lurs on that particular occasion, but hey, it is what it is. Tauscher, I'm hearing, is now improving as well. That is the 211 I mean, like, these margins are just absolutely ridiculous. Michael Tauscher comes out of Ingwe, currently P13. Where does the Aston Martin end up? P4. Top 4 covered by 63 thousandths. This is getting rather tight up close and personal in quali.
Well, that at least settles that tie-break for 10th place, because it doesn't matter now. They've both got to improve again. It's now Mike Noble that's on the bubble in the 1-2-3 Aston Martin then. And he has only got a couple of tenths, or a tenth and a half now in hand over lawyers behind. Now, James Baldwin, 18th place for him. He was just inside the top 10 last time I checked. And just like that, he slipped down almost to the back of the top 20. Oh, and he sets exactly the same time as Mike Noble. That is twice in the same session that the 10th and 11th place drivers have set identical lap times to the nearest thousandth. But again, because Noble set the time first, he squeaks in. I mean, Alex, you were astonished when it happened once, and then, 60 seconds later, it happens again.
All I'm going to say is, lightning does strike twice on occasions, doesn't it, Andy? But Marek Shins has just thrown away what could have been a really good lap there, but he's still improving. I mean, you drop a wheel on the dust here at Kyalami, it can throw you a curveball, but Marek Shins up into P9 ahead of Tobias Grönwald, and now Noble and Baldwin can't worry about squabbling because effectively they're now out of the squabble for 10th place now. But Tauscher is consistently improving and is gunning for pole position through Cheetah, now into Ingwe. So we're going to see what the 211 Sidemax Motorworks car does out of the final corner. Michael Tauscher will put in a barnstorm of a lap and goes to provisional top of the timesheets by 24 thousandths. Top 4 covered by 6 100ths. Close than you can ever count, I think, here, Andy.
Michael Hamlet in our ear just now as that car came out of the final corner said with such confidence that was going to be the fastest time, but I'll tell you what, 24 1,000ths of a second, I wouldn't have been that confident until I saw the thing come across the line and the time appear on the board. That couldn't be closer. The top 4 in this session, 6 100ths of a second, all that separate them. Now, what about 10th place though? It's now the 191 car that's in danger. Marek Shins, as Zahir Essa here was in the top 10 earlier on, he's dropped back out again. This session has been phenomenal. Still 4 minutes and 20 seconds to go, and this isn't even the fight for pole position. We've got our 2 Super Pole sessions coming up after this, so don't go anywhere. If you think this is good, imagine just how exciting it will be when the actual pole position is on the line. The big Bentley comes through the final sector then. This is the sequence of corners, though, where the Bentley is going to struggle. The tight final sector, Essa's got to be neat and tidy. That is not what he wants to see. The 199 Mercedes pointing the wrong way right in front of him. Lightning quick reactions there from Essa to avoid him, but did that cost him time? He can't really afford it to have done because it's such fine margins here in the midfield. 14th for Essa is exactly where he stays, so maybe a combination there, I think, Alex, of the final sector not suiting that car and the fact there was a car pointing the wrong way in front of him just hampered him there.
That was definitely a case of, right, okay, mirror signal manoeuvre, and I've got to get out of the way of that one. Tobias Grönwald from Unicorns of Love, 6 1,000ths outside of the top 10, just being rounded out by Marek Shins. Here's Nicholas Huben from Rutronic E-Racing, number 34 Audi, and at the moment, forget an Aston Martin meritocracy here as Nicholas Huben enters the pits. We now have 6 Audis, a Lamborghini, a Honda, and 2 Aston Martins. And the top 10 covered by 0.18 of a second. And at the moment, 41 drivers, rounded out by Niles Noyox, covered by just 13 thousandths shy of a single second. And we've got just under 2 minutes and 50 left to go in this first part of qualifying for Split 1.
And there are 80 points available for winning this race. So all of these mid-engine teams that have been struggling so far this season... Wow, Maxime Patafoulier there for AAA Esports jumps from outside the top 20 into 6th place. That was impressive. But yeah, all of these mid-engine teams that have been struggling in the championship, they really could turn their season around if they get a good race this weekend. This is one of them, the 121 car then, which comes up through the final corner, currently finds itself outside the top 10. So is Zahir Essa. now 15th place. He was hampered at the end of his previous lap. Not this time, though. And he makes it 5 cars within the first 10th now as he jumps into 5th place. And Alberto Garcia gets in as well. So Giorgio Simonini now is on the bubble in 10th position. He has a couple of hundredths in hand over the 416 car. But Alexander Novikov here is already in the top 10, and he is trying to further solidify that position then. He is well up on his previous best here by several tenths of a second, with the final sector still to go. So the 101 car then comes up through this tight and technical section at the end of the lap, through the Crocodiles, into Cheetah. Don't run wide. Inch perfect. No, a bit too wide over the grass. That hopefully didn't lose him too much time. The 8th place Audi then into the final corner, accelerates out towards the start-finish line. Will this be good enough to go to the top of the pile and solidify their position in the top 10? Yes, it will, by almost a tenth of a second. Alex, that's an enormous margin at the top now.
Hang on a second, but watch out. Giorgio Simonini for GTWR RHE Academy. The current reigning and defending champions, Ibrahimi, comes towards the line and is a 10th. Up goes P2. 18 thousandths, but we've got to keep our eyes on Simonini on the bubble. 9 thousandths behind Alberto Garcia, and Batafuye has just gone up into P4, 3 1,000ths shy of Tauscher in the 211. Simonini out of the final corner, so could be close. Where is Simonini going to factor in? P5, just over a tenth off of Novikov, who has set the fastest lap of anybody, a 1 minute 39.744, but we've got just 30 seconds. Michael Tauscher for the 211 Sidemax Motorworks FFS racing car. Currently P3, 9 100ths off of Novikov's time. 3 1,000ths ahead of Batifuye. Moulin, but there are cars that could... I mean, if anyone's got the Jaws music playing round about now, Andy McEwan, I think... there could be several cars that might have an opportunity at getting into that top 10 as the timer hits 0 for 20 minutes in the first part of Split 1 qualifying.
Yeah, one of them that really needs to try and get a move on here is Tobias Grunewald in the Unicorns of Love car, 3rd in the championship, but they're just outside that top 10 at the moment. Michael Tauscher is 3rd, trying to go to the top of the times, crosses the line, doesn't manage it though, and he's one of the first drivers to see that checkered flag. But here is Grunewald, now the top 2 cars in the championship, the 41 Aston Martin, the 111 Bentley, they're not in the top 10 either, and Lebrecht is in the barriers, gets it wrong there through Cheetah, and that will now certainly stop him from breaking into that top 10. He was 11th at the time. But yes, Tobias Grunewald then, the 2 cars that are ahead of this car in the championship, 41 and 111, are well down the order. So if Grunewald can put this Aston Martin into the top 10, that could be big for the championship. They are 40 points off the championship lead, the Unicorns of Love, but they are 3rd in the points coming into Kyalami. Into the hairpin he comes then. Is he going to get there? He only needs to find about a few hundredths of a second to get into that top 10. It's going to be very, very close. Grunewald across the line. Yes, does it. 3rd place then for the Unicorns of Love. What an incredible final effort that was from Tobias Grunewald. And it could be a really significant one in the championship, Alex.
Yeah, and Alberto Garcia from Odox Motorsport is out of the top 10 shootout. Marek Shins out of the final corner. What does Racing Line Motorsport have in the bag? Will it be enough? No. Stays P14. Daniel Ferrier from Pink Performance. 25th at the end of that session. Top 10. Dennis Schoeninger. 2 tenths covers that top 10. So it was Alexander Novikov ahead of Samir Ibrahimi by 18 thousandths in that session. Tobias Grunewald, Michael Tauscher, Maxime Batifuye, Giorgio Simonini P6. Pierre Moulin, the biggest surprise, I think, for everybody, including Michael Hamlet, on that particular occasion. The eSport Performance Racing team, heading out the top 7. And then we've got Luka Vidalik, Zahid Essa, and Dennis Schoeninger rounding out the top 10. I believe, Andy, you've got a driver standing by for an interview.
Yes, I believe so. We are expecting Ross McGregor to come and have a chat with us. Now, qualifying did not go terribly well for Ross's team, unfortunately, but we will have a word with him anyway. Ross, thank you for taking some time to have a chat with us. That could have gone better, couldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of expected to struggle. McLaren's not great at Kyalami. and we've got ballast as well. So yeah, we kind of expect it to be outside the top 20, and that's how it is. I mean, look at James Baldwin; he's one of the fastest in the world, and he's P15 and unballasted McLaren. So that's the kind of the level of the task we've got to take on.
Yeah, and this just makes life a little bit more complicated now going into the race, doesn't it? Because you're in amongst the traffic. I suppose you could hang back at the start, maybe. Survival on that first lap is going to be key, though. It's a tight first few corners. How nervous are you about getting through that first lap on Saturday in one piece?
It doesn't matter which race it is or where it is, what championship. On lap one, it's always nervous. But yeah, at Donington, we're in a similar sort of position. I think we were P23 in qualifying, and again, we had ballast in the car, and we just kept it clean first lap, and then took it from there, and we finished P6, which is an incredible result.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because we make a lot of qualifying because, it's exciting and it's good to see who gets up there at the front, but you don't have to qualify at the front to score good points, do you? If you can get a half-decent sort of top 15, top 10 finish maybe out of this one, we've still got the final round at Nurburgring where there are a lot of points on offer, so it is key, isn't it, not to lose sight of that and just try and make sure you're there at the finish and trying to score some points.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of our aim. We just want to score as many points as possible in this race. There might be some teams playing games in this one, some to watch out for, because obviously the top 10 get ballast for the next race, which is obviously a pretty long endurance race at Nurburgring. So a lot of people might want to go into that without ballast. But for us, we don't really care about that. We just want as many points as we can get. So if the chance is there for 10th, 9th or 8th, we're not going to drop back and take the unballasted car for next round. We're going to take as many points as we can.
Well, it sounds like we're going to be in for an interesting race then on Saturday. Who is starting your car? Are you going to get that honour?
I don't know yet. It's whoever's got the shortest straw, I think. It could well be myself. Maybe not Luca because he did qualifying. So possibly myself or Jack. But yeah, we've not decided yet. So let's just see.
Excellent. Normally drivers are itching to do that first stint, but I can tell that's not necessarily the case this time. Yeah. Ross, best of luck for the race on Saturday, mate.
Cheers, Andy. Thank you.
Well, Ross McGregor then. That's interesting, Alex. A suggestion there, perish the thought, that there might be a little bit of sandbagging going on. Who'd have thought it?
Oh, I mean, that doesn't really happen, does it, in GT racing? No.
It has been known, I think, hasn't it? It has been known.
Yes, and it has been penalised previously. But at the end of the day, we know that we're at that business end. There's the best part of a $25,000 US dollar prize fund, and at the top of the hour, we will be going into Split 2 Super Pole, where the top 10 cars will be going out. The format will be an out lap, a hot lap, and then an in lap. And if they have a bit of a drama, if they can't connect to the server, that's it. You start 10th or you start 9th. We've seen it before where we've had, I think Mount Panorama, where we had a couple of drivers not make it to the end of the lap, or I think the biggest moment we've had, someone lost it and did a 360 at Skyline of all places, and that's not anywhere where you really want to have a moment. But here, it's going through mineshaft. That's going to be the biggest worry. You've got to really keep it pinned. You're shifting up from 4th to 5th gear at 210, 220 kph. This is going to be, I think, one of the more defining laps of qualifying this season for season 2 of the SimGrid VCO World Cup. Wouldn't you agree, Andy?
I think so, and I think it's going to be an all-action qualifying session, this, because, as I said at the top of the show, it's an unforgiving circuit, this. If you're somewhere like Spa, you can have a bit of a moment going into even a corner like Radion or Pouon now. You've got loads of tarmac runoff areas, so if you make a bit of a mistake, doesn't really matter. You can get away with it. You're not going to damage the car. You're not going to completely ruin your lap. Here, though, you only have to misjudge your line or your braking point fractionally, particularly through that final sector. You said the mine shaft, but then the next sequence through the Crocodiles, through Cheetah, I think we're going to see a lot of lap times spoiled in that final sector, either through making a mistake and or exceeding track limits. Don't be surprised if one or two drivers in this Super Pole session have lap times taken away from them because they go too wide over the curbs through one of those corners in the final sector. It's going to be a fascinating qualifying session, Alex, and it's getting underway. The first car out on track.
Yep, Elko Bussink for Rookie Monsters, the number 7 Ferrari, and is partnered with Luca Tavanari and Hind Sai. We have in this qualifying session 2 Ferraris, 1 Honda, 3 Audis and 4 Aston Martins, with 60% of the top 10 in the Super Pole shootout being mid-engined rear-wheel drive as Elko Bussink makes his way through Sunset, the right-hander at turn 6 into the left-hander here at Clubhouse. And this is where you see the real elevation changes start to kick in through into the S's. So into the left at 8, down the dip into 9. So we'll ride on the dash cam, but also trackside picture-in-picture all the way through every single lap. You can see that Elko Bussink weaving a little bit from side to side to get some well-needed temperature in the carcass of the tyre. Track temperature has dropped from 30 degrees Celsius to 27 degrees Celsius. Server time now at 6:01 p.m. Now this is going to be crucial, Andy, getting the well-needed heat into the carcass of the tyres, which then also permeates through the alloy wheels and into the brake pads and discs on the vehicle, making sure that your weapons are sharp going into quali.
Yeah, precisely, because we saw in those first 2 qualifying sessions for both Split 2 and Split 1 that the fastest lap times were coming right at the end of the session because it was taking them, 7-8 minutes sometimes from coming out of the pit lane on a fresh set of tyres to actually getting them into the ideal operating window through pressure and temperature. So they don't have that luxury now. They've got that one out lap, which we've just seen Bussink complete, and now that's it. You only get one shot at this, so you're not going to have ideal tyre temperature or pressure. The ambient temperature, remember, is coming down a bit now as well as we get into the late afternoon. So yeah, it is going to be a challenge to get straight onto the limit here early in the session. You've also, of course, got that setting sun to contend with. I noticed there as he went up through the first sequence of corners, right in his eyes. It'll be the same now as they come through the appropriately named sunset curve. There it is, look, right in his eyes as he goes through the apex. That could just provide an extra challenge, as if this wasn't going to be a challenging enough session as it was.
Yeah, through Clubhouse, turn 7. So Elko Bussink going through as Dmitry Nazarov is out on a hot lap. That's for the 359 Funny Formula Wombats car that qualified P9 out of the 40-plus cars in the 20-minute session earlier on. Elko Bussink hard on the brakes into the left-hander, just deciding not to touch the apex going through Loicott, but now heading into Mineshaft, down the dip, accelerating through the gears. Now we'll be probably pulling 5th gear around about now as you go through onto the apex, through the bottom part of Mineshaft, now into the Crocodiles, turn number 13. A little bit of curb taken there, running the car wide. A little bit of run-off area tarmac there to help. And going through Cheetah. This is where some drivers have gotten it wrong. People have ended up in the barriers either on the left or the right-hand side of the track. Into Ingwe. And Elko Bussink for Rookie Monsters, the number 7 Ferrari, comes out of the final corner. The benchmark to beat will be a 1 minute 40.866. So a good initial banker there for Elko Bussink. But now Dmitry Nazarov from Funny Formula Wombats in the 359 will start. Now there are 2 Funny Formula Wombat cars in this. You've also got the number 56, which will be the halfway point, and that had Alexei Meyer in as Dmitry Nazarov now heads through the kink down the dip into turn 2 at Crowthorne. Hard on the brakes, down into first. Doesn't take too much apex, but allows a little bit of run wide there going through up in the Juxcase sweep for the 90 left here at Barbecue, which then is very reminiscent of what you have with Mountain Straight and Mount Panorama here at Kyalami, coming out of Barbecue, and you've got the sort of like the slight mountain-esque straight going through into the left-hander. And again, as you said, that visibility is going to be at a premium, but at least you can stop off for a cheeky little drink at the next corner known as Clubhouse.
Yes, no time for that today, though. This is as fast as you can. You can have your celebratory drink when you're back in the pit lane afterwards. This is all concentration now then for Dmitry Nazarov as he comes down through this final into the middle part of the lap now then, I guess. Looking at the lap time that we just had there for the number 7 Ferrari then, so their Q1 time was 1 minute 40.4, so they're about 4 tenths off that, which goes to show that they're not going to be going as quickly in this session as they were earlier on. Now, Nazarov managed a 40.386. Let's see how close he can get to that. Will he be able, first and foremost, to go quicker than Bussink has gone so far in the number 7 Ferrari? We're about to find out because he's coming through the final sequence of corners now, through the Crocodiles into Cheetah. Don't screw it up now by hitting that curb. He doesn't. He's inch perfect then as he comes out of the right-hander. Now one more braking point to spot, one more apex to hit. Don't spin the wheels on the exit. Don't run too wide over the curbs. Every corner is a real challenge. A 1 minute 40.866 to beat then, and he does it. A 1 minute 40.668, which is nearly 2/10 quicker than the Ferrari. Good effort, that.
Next up, Jonathan Seville for Pulse Sim Sport, qualified 8th in the first session, and it's the first of multiple Audis, 3 of which we have in this group for split 2. Hard on the brakes, 5.2 litre, naturally aspirated V10. A very successful car in its own right in GT3 customer racing. And up through the Jux K sweep and into barbecue goes Jonathan Seville. Down the short blast here into the right hand sweeper. Very deceptive corner here at Sunset. There's no real camber to speak of, but that sunset really does sort of glare into the eyes of the driver, and especially can be quite prominent even if you're using VR as opposed to maybe say a single or triple screens as part of your sim rig setup. Through the S's, so down the dip into the right hander here at 9, up the slight hill through into Loikop. This is going to be where Seville's going to be hard on the brakes. LED lights on the back of the Audi ablaze, glowing red, through into mineshaft once more. Using a little bit of that concrete runoff on the right hand side to really measure the car going through the apex here. Down the gears once again into the Crocodiles at turn 13, and then quite deceptive because it's 16 turns here at Kyalami. Now this turn here that's really got no name apart from going through Cheetah, which Jonathan Seville just absolutely nailed perfectly. Put the right hand side of the car right where he needed to, out of the final corner. Where does Seville go? Now that is a qualifying lap time in Superpole, 1 minute 40.281. Seville is now the one that's really got to be beaten.
That would have put him 7th fastest in Q1, so he actually has gone quicker there than he did in the previous session by nearly a full 10th of a second. So he's making a liar out of me because I didn't think that would happen, but he has managed to do it. So great effort that from Jonathan Seville. That another team that really is looking for their first really good result of the season so far. The number 69 car is next to go then. This is Tom Schneider, who was 7th fastest in Q1 then, the only one of the Hondas to make it into this top 10 shootout, the Super Pole session. And the 69 car then again not troubling the top 10 in the championship standings right now, so an opportunity, if nothing else, to try and get something to shout about by the end of the season, even if it's too late to build a championship challenge. A good result here would certainly be something that they would be gunning for on Saturday afternoon. Out then towards the back part of the lap we go. We're heading towards the S's, turns 8 and 9. Really steeply downhill, so easy to mess up that entry, but then you've got the camber to help you through the right-hander. Then they accelerate uphill towards the braking zone at Loikop. Difficult to spot. Look, it's a completely blind crest that you go over, and you have to brake and commit to that corner quite a long time before you can see the apex, actually, but he manages to find it well, gets on the power, down into the mineshaft now then, the fastest part of the circuit, through the left-hander, and then spot your braking point just about there going into the Crocodiles. This looks like a decent lap for Tom Schneider. His lap time in Q1 was a 1 minute 40.341, only fractionally quicker than Jonathan Seville, but he is going to have to find a good chunk of time over that to beat Jonathan to the provisional pole position time, which is now 1 minute 40.281 for the Audi driver. The Honda comes out of the final turn, then Schneider to the line. Is it going to be enough to go to the top? It is not. He is second, so he's quicker than the other two, but look at that, nearly 4/10 still the advantage for Jonathan Seville. That really was an impressive lap time for the Audi, wasn't it?
Right, now we turn our attentions to Jakob Osterman from Gardi Racing, who are the current Split 2 Championship leaders coming into the penultimate round here at the Coach Dave Academy, 12 hours of Kyalami. So hard into the braking zones, and I do see that Schneider is now back on the in lap, and as Osterman winds it up to volume number 11, the number 56 of Funny Formula Wombat's very own Alexei Meyer, now out on the outlap that they have to do. So Osterman surging through into Sunset, taking as little curb as possible not to upset the back end of the Aston Martin. A little bit of a wobble coming out of the corner, but gathers it all together once again for what will be Clubhouse. Down through into at the S's once more. So very clean. And one of the things about qualifying laps, especially in Superpole, there's more pressure put on the drivers here, Andy, and Jakob Osterman seems to be soaking up that pressure like a sponge right now.
Yeah, intense pressure, because it's just so easy to make a mistake, isn't it? But Jakob, as you said, doing well here. An important lap this then for the 71 car, because they are the only one of the top 6 cars in the championship that have made it into this top 10 shootout. The next highest placed car in the championship to be in this Superpole is the number 16 XL Racing by Renvelt and Aston Martin, which Maximilian Vullmuth will be piloting in a moment or two. So for the championship, Osterman already in a strong position, but if they can stick it on the front row, that would be even better. They are carrying this 30 kilos of success ballast in a car that isn't naturally well suited to the Kyalami circuit. Despite that, though, they go to the top of the times. 1 minute 40.062 then is just over 2/10 clear of Jonathan Seville. That was a really impressive lap time. He is actually a 10th quicker as well than he went in Q1. That is why they're the championship leaders. Great stuff.
Yeah, Alexei Meyer now starts the lap for Funny Formula Wombats, the number 56. Another Aston Martin. I'm sure that Tinko van der Velde will know exactly how to... Now, van der Velde was the only driver to go into the 139s. Now, Alexei Meyer put that car in P5 at the end of the 20-minute initial session. It saw more than 30 cars dispatched with coming into Superpole shootout. Now heading through into Sunset. Temperature is starting to drop again, 26 degrees Celsius now. So, but the low-lying sun on Sunset is no longer there. So Alexei Meyer not having his vision compromised as much as you would have seen the likes of Osterman, who put in an absolute barnstormer in the number 71 Aston Martin from Gardi Racing through the S's. Turns 8 and 9, runs it a little bit wide on the approach up through towards Loikop. You can see the steering inputs from the driver directly down from 4th to 1st gear. 75 kph on the apex. Let the car drift wide going into mineshaft. Now building the speed, 4th gear, 200 kph and increasing. And actually shifts up to 5th just before to get that little bit of extra purchase. Now through into Crocodiles. Down to 1st gear once again. Through this deceptive little left-hander. Through into the right at Cheetah. Avoids the curb. Runs it wide a little bit, but enough to keep it fully lit up. Out of Ingwe, Alexei Meyer has a chance to get past Osterman. Will it happen? Across the line goes the car. P3. So 1 minute 40.323. Jakob Osterman has absolutely put the cat amongst the pigeons in split 2 qualifying for Superpole tonight.
Yeah, good effort that though from Meyer. Guaranteed to start top 7, which when you consider that car has had 2 DNFs and a 23rd place finish so far this year, I think they'd say that's definitely been an upgrade in performance. Right then, getting into the heavy hitters now. 4 cars to go. They are the 4 fastest cars from Q1, and this is the first of them then, the number 602 Audi with Loic Van Ack at the wheel then. So his lap time earlier on was a 40.116. He needs more than that then to beat Jakob Osterman to the fastest time in this session so far. And let's see how the Audi gets on. The headlights coming on. Tell you what, now that sun has set fully behind the hills, it's going to start going dark pretty quickly here. Probably before we get into the Split 1 Superpole session, we're going to be looking at a pretty dark circuit. And that, again, changes the characteristics. The ambient temperature is down 6 degrees from where it was when we started Q1 an hour or so ago. So definitely the track will have changed since the last time these drivers were on track. How is Loic Van Ack handling that though? Getting out of Loikop down the hill then. Got a lot to do in this final sector to try and get that provisional pole position time away. But this is the sequence of corners the Audi should like. Hits the brakes, then takes quite a wide line there into the first of the Cheetahs. A bit wider on the entry than some of the other teams have been. It's wide on the exit as well, right up over the curb then, but doesn't quite invalidate the lap. He's very wide of the apex through the right-hander at Cheetah. That will definitely have cost him a 10th or so. So a slightly scrappy final sector here for Loic Van Ack. The eSport Performance Racing Team Audi, though, comes across the start-finish line. Has it cost him time? Yes, it has. 6/10 off pole and only 6th fastest. So that means they could, Alex, finish this session as low as 9th place. And that is the car that was 4th in Q1.
And also pipped to it on the same lap time by Dmitry Nazarov from Funny Formula 1 bets in the 3:59. Now, the final Audi to take part in this session, Robert Ruakana from the number 83 crew, and that is Space Pace Esports. We've got 2 more cars to go after this one. We've got an Aston Martin and a Ferrari, and I think Tinko van der Velde could be feeling the pressure. Can Maximilian Volmuth have anything to say? Not unless Robert Ruakana says something first. The Audi makes its way through into the right-hand sweeper here at sunset. Nice and clean from the V10 naturally aspirated Ingolstadt Leviathan there. Going through into Clubhouse. Runs a little bit wide. Kicks up a little bit of dust with the right rear wheel. But still keeps the throttle planted in. Into the S's now. Up the hill towards Loikop. Nice and clean, a little bit of bumpiness there on the surface. Flame spitting from the rear exhaust pipes. As down to first gear, now start to build the speed and the acceleration. Now it's time to commit to going through Mineshaft. Turn 12 out of 16 on this 4.529 kilometre circuit. Now through into the right-hander here at the Crocodiles. Not too much curb taken there. A little bit of runoff used. Still within track limits. Very neat and tidy from Ruakana at this particular moment. Through Cheetah, now into Ingwe. So at the moment, it's an Aston Martin leading an Audi and an Aston in the top 3. Can Ruakana in the 83 Audi do something? P4. So it's Aston Martin from Audi, Aston Martin from Audi. That's provisionally the top 2 rows at the moment. But we still have an Aston Martin and a Ferrari still to go. As Maximilian Volmuth now cranks it up to volume 11 and goes on a hot lap.
Yeah, so this is the other of our championship frontrunners then to make it into the Super Bowl session. This car, the XL Racing by Renvelt and Aston Martin, is 7th in the points on 137 points. The championship leader, Gardi Racing, on 164, so less than 30 points back. But as we've said, the top 2 in the championship did not make it into Super Bowl, so this is a big session here for Volmuth. And at the moment, it is the 3rd place car in the championship that they're trying to beat. Jakob Osterman in the number 71 car at the top of the times, heading through into the left-hander here. And, bit of a mistake. The front end didn't want to bite there, heading into the the clubhouse corner. That will have just dropped him a 10th or so as he had to find the apex and try not to run too wide onto the dirty side of the road. The sparks flying from underneath the Aston Martin as it comes out through the S's and up into Loikop. So, as a driver, when you make a mistake like that, Alex, at the the first part of the lap, that can play on your mind, can't it, for the rest of the lap? And there might be a temptation here for Maximilian Volmuth to overdrive now to try and make up for the 10th or so he lost in Sector 1.
Yeah, there'll be a case of don't muck it up. Just hit the braking points, turn in when you need to. You know this track well. Don't muck about, and that's going to be one of the biggest things going through now into Cheetah. Maximilian Volmuth could be, well, looks a little bit scrappy coming out of Cheetah, but going through Ingwe. One more car to go after this one. Maximilian Volmuth for XL Racing by Renvelten crosses the stripe. P8, lost an absolute handful of time through that mistake. And now we've got one more car to go, and it's Tinko van der Velde in the number 96. The Ferrari cranking that 3.9 litre twin turbo V8 across the start finish line into the kink. Now down through into Crowthorne, shifting all the way down the gearbox into first gear. Neat and tidy from van der Velde at the moment. Keeps a little bit further away from the curbing. Neatly negotiates the Jux K-sweep and up into the 90 left here at Barbecue before the run down to Sunset. A little bit of grass. Now they're 10th in the championship at the moment. Now the thing is that this this team was a reserve in this championship. Someone dropped out, they took their place, and here they are. So Van der Velde looking to put the cat amongst the pigeons. The time to beat by Jakob Osterman by the current championship leaders, Gardi Racing, the 71 Aston Martin, 1 minute 40.062. Now Van der Velde here, Andy, is the only driver to get into the high 39s in the first part of qualifying. With the temperature change, could a 39 still be on the cards, or could he pip Osterman by the merest of fractions?
I think it's on the cards, but whether he'll be able to deliver on that is another matter. He and Vollmuth were the only two drivers who actually set a lap time in Q1 quicker than Osterman has in this session, so Vollmuth wasn't able to live up to that. In fact, he was some way off his time from Q1. What can Tinko van der Velde do, though? The Ferrari comes up through the final few corners. It's been a solid lap, this. I haven't seen any mistakes, really, but has it been a safe and sensible lap? Or has Tinko van der Velde been able to find that magic that he found in Q1? Out of the final corner then, a 1 minute 40.062 is the time to beat. Can he do it? No! Only 5th fastest for Tinko van der Velde, so it will be, would you believe it, the championship leaders who will start on the pole position. Then the 71 Aston Martin, still looking, remember, for their first podium of the season, Alex, but that is a great way to go about it. Pole position here in the Kyalami 12 hours.
Hold the phones, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a battle on our hands. And you can see there, the top 10 covered by 0.8 of a second. So congratulations to Gardi Racing. Jakob Osterman with an absolutely blistering 1 minute 40.062. Pulse Simsport, a great result for them, second. But Andy, I think I'm going to hand over to you because we have got the one, the only, Jakob Osterman in for an interview.
Yeah, Jakob is here to have a chat with us. Jakob, huge congratulations. First of all, did you expect that? Because arriving here at Kyalami as the championship leaders, with all of that ballast on board, that was against the odds, wasn't it?
I mean, first of all, thanks for the congratulations. I'm pretty happy with the lap. I didn't think it would be enough to get on pole because the Audis are super strong on Kyalami. So pretty happy about that, and I think I couldn't go much faster, so I nailed the lap pretty hard.
Not many drivers in that Super Bowl session were actually able to go quicker than they had in Q1, but you did. So did you know after Q1 that there was a bit more time left in the car?
I knew there was some time left, but I thought that the others could go quicker as well, so yeah, pretty happy.
Sets you up brilliantly for the race, but also from a championship perspective, it looks good, doesn't it? Because you've got the championship lead already, and most of the other cars in the top 10 in the championship have not qualified very well. So how confident are you and the team now with 2 races to go that you might just be able to do this?
I mean, the race is long, so pole position is good, but it doesn't help much for the race because anything can happen in 12 hours.
And you're leading the points, but you've not had a podium yet this season. So how important would it be for you to try and get into at least the top 3 before the season's over?
I mean, we would be happy about a podium, but as you can see, you don't have to have a podium to be on the top of the table.
Yeah, absolutely, and that would, of course, mean that you'd be carrying some ballast into the final race, but it's not slowed you down this weekend, so who knows. Congratulations again on the pole position, and best of luck for the race on Saturday.
Thanks, bye.
So, Jakob Osterman then, interesting stuff there, Alex. Then he's, I think, playing it down a little bit, the pressure that's on them now, but it's got to feel good, hasn't it? When all of your other championship rivals are floundering, they're struggling to carry the ballast here at Kyalami, and you come in with a car that is not supposed to be the car in favour here at a tight and technical circuit in the shape of the Aston Martin. You've got that 30 kilos on board as well. No one's expecting you to be on the pace, and you stick it on pole position. That's a pretty bold statement, isn't it?
Bold statement going into Saturday's race. But before we get the final part of qualifying for the Coach Dave Academy 12 hours of Kyalami here live on the Sim Grid, we're going to go to a brief commercial break. Back in a few moments, folks.
Virtual.
Welcome back to qualifying for round 4 of the SimGrid VCO World Cup. The Coach Dave Academy, 12 hours of Kyalami, taking place this coming Saturday. Alex Goldschmidt and Andy McEwan with you. Andy, I think we've got a couple of shout-outs to make because I've just spotted on Twitter the man behind the SimGrid and Coach Dave Academy, Mr. David Perel, is currently at the Circuit de la Sarthe, and he's just tweeted about 15 minutes ago, sitting here watching Hyperpole for Le Mans and realising that I'm on the same piece of track for 40 minutes. Well, David, from everyone here at the team, all the very best of luck. You know, we've got one of our big events happening at the same time he's racing at Le Mans. I mean, who'd have thunk that?
And I'm sure he'd much rather be sat in his sim rig at home taking part in. No, I think he's quite happy where he is, isn't he? Yeah, what an experience that must be. And the Le Mans 24 Hours, an event that is a must visit, I think, for all motorsport fans. But if you're a racing driver, to race at that event, even if it's not in the 24 hours itself, has just got to be such a thrill. And David is first and foremost a fan of the sport, isn't he? He's not just a racing driver, but he loves his racing. He will not be lost on him the special nature of what he's doing this weekend. And yeah, we wish him the best of luck.
Indeed, and we are literally seconds away from getting Split 1 Superpole qualifying underway here at Kyalami. It's going to be once around the clock this very Saturday, and then in October we have our grandstand finale, which will decide our Season 2 SimGrid VCO World Cup champions. So who will assert the current champions this season? Well, we're going to find out at the end of the year. But the top 10 decided earlier on. It was 0.18 between the top 10. And also we have to give a shout out to SimGrid athlete Kelvin van der Linde, who is leading the way in DTM that heads to the Nurburgring this weekend. So Kelvin, all the very best of luck with Ab Sportsline in the Audi R8 LMS GT3. And now, speaking of Audi, we have one on the track. The number 21 of WPS Racing Team's Dennis Schoeninger qualified P10 in the previous session, and Schoeninger very, very handy behind the wheel of Ingolstadt's finest, and he's going to be the one that's going to have to put in the initial benchmark, and I've got a feeling it's going to be even closer in this session.
I wouldn't argue against that, Alex. I mean, certainly based on what we saw in Q1, I'd say that's going to be the case. It was insanely tight, wasn't it? The top 5 drivers covered by less than a tenth of a second, and the entire top 10 by only 0.2 of a second. So when it's that tight, you really can't make any predictions. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that a driver who was, languishing at the back end of the top 10 in Q1 could find the 10th and a half now, just because they didn't quite get a clean lap in that first session. And if they can find a 10th and a half, that would be enough to push them right up towards the front end of the times. Also, with this track temperature dropping, although it is actually much the same now as it was for the start of the Split 2 Super Bowl that we just saw, but the cooler track temperature will help them a little bit. It's harder to get the tyres up to the right temperature, but once they're there, the track should be a little bit quicker. So, maybe we'll see a few more drivers finding improvements. Dennis Schoeninger then, his time was 1:39.951, so all of our top 10 shootout drivers in Split 1 got underneath the 1:40 bracket, but can he do the same now in Superpole? Let's find out.
Okay, and currently at the moment, WPS Racing Team, the number 21 Audi, a 4th at Mount Panorama, a 4th at Donington Park, and at the Thrustmaster 24 Hours of Spa, a 37th place finish, putting them on 106 points, 13th in the standings. And again, that low-lying sun looking rather menacing, but not at possible points of the circuit that we alluded to earlier, but looking at sunset that looks to be a bit of a low-lying hue, and that's very much the case, because you can see on the bottom part of the skyline, Dennis Schoeninger gets an eyeful of low-lying sunset as he makes his way through into Clubhouse, now into the S's. So down the hill into turns 8 to 9 goes the Audi, and Dennis Schoeninger will have got the opportunity to set that benchmark, but he'll be the one with the target on the back, but looks pretty calm and composed from the Audi so far. So I've seen that Zahir Essa will be next down on track for the Sim Racing Masterclass, with the South African flag showing front and centre on that Bentley.
Yeah, so Schoeninger then, as you said, this looks like a pretty sensible lap, but it can be deceiving from the outside sometimes. I haven't spotted any mistakes here, but then I didn't spot any mistakes in Tinko van der Velde's lap, and he's just been in the YouTube comment section saying that he missed 3 apexes by miles. We didn't even spot that from outside, so really we have to rely on the stopwatch to tell us who's doing well. A 39 would be a really good lap, and look at that, a 39.969 for Dennis Schoeninger. So that is actually fractionally slower than he went in Q1, but given the fact that he only had that one warm-up lap that time, Alex, that is really impressive. But this is what Split 1 is about. These drivers just have that ability, don't they, to go out there on colder tyres and bang in the same sort of lap time. That is mighty, mighty impressive, that from Schoeninger.
Yeah, also with the fact that it had 16 kilos of ballast, that Audi. Now we have a completely ballast-free Bentley Continental GT3, Zahir Essa behind the wheel of the 777 Sim Racing Masterclass, qualified 9th in this session. They currently sit on 85 points, 17th in the championship, 16 behind the number 27 Jean Alesi Esports Academy Ferrari. In 16th as Zahir Essa makes his way through Clubhouse. A bit more runoff taken there by the Bentley, heading now down into the S's. And then next up we will have the other WPS Racing Team car. That's the number 28. That had Luka Vidalik behind the wheel. Zahid Essa now coming through Loikot, now into Mineshaft. The Bentley starts to gather pace and momentum down the hill. Very much kind of reminds me a bit of Nemesis at Alton Towers going through Mineshaft. If you wanted a roller coaster ride. Zahid Essa, a little bit more curve taken by the Bentley, going through the Crocodiles, now through into Cheetah. Neatly avoids that. No real runoff, well, no real abuse of runoff used there, but Zahid Essa out of the final corner. Time to beat by Dennis Schoeninger, 1 minute 39.969. Zahid Essa goes just under 0.16 slower.
Yeah, so already we have our first change then, because Schoeninger was slower than Essa in Q1, but then that reverses in Superpole. This is what I thought we'd see quite a lot of, just because of how evenly matched the drivers were. Right then, Luka Vidalik here then in the 28 Audi, who was 8th fastest in Q1. He did a 39.894 in that session. We've got an Audi on top already. 5 of them, 5 cars in this top 10 shootout are Audis though, and we then also have the mid-engined Lamborghini, don't we? The number 9 car in here as well. So mid-engine cars looking strong in split 1. Luka takes quite a tight line there into the first corner, doesn't he? Braking almost in the middle of the road, which you wouldn't think is the quickest way through the turn, but he's out there on track running strongly. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. Inch perfect there as he comes out of that tight left-hander that completes Sector 1 through Barbecue. Now rush past the old pits and head into Sunset and the clubhouse, sliding a bit there. He doesn't make the apex. That's really going to lose him time, and Luka will be kicking himself for that. He gets back over to the right-hand side of the road in time for clubhouse, but immediately misses the apex again because he's made one mistake, and now he's pushing so hard to try and make up for lost time. I think he knows that this lap is not going to be the best. We can see now him working away virtually at the wheel of the Audi R8 as he heads up now towards Loikop. So just got to be careful, just got to try and not overdrive now after that little error that he had through Sunset Corner. Drops down towards the mine shaft, and yeah, Alex, I don't think this is going to be a time that troubles pole position, but we'll see. He could bring it back in Sector 3.
Yeah, it just depends on how neat and tidy you are. I mean, he's got what, probably 20 seconds, not even that, to try and get through the final set of corners. Now through into the right, you can just see how, oh, now that was a bit wide coming out of Cheetah right there. Hard on the brakes to try and correct a bit of a scruffy final sector from Luka Vidalik, and he's got no ballast on this car in comparison with Schoeninger, and that's going to, well, that sort of scrabble to try and get the time back. He's managed to claw it back to within 4/10. Pierre Moulin in the 601 car. Now this was a team that we didn't expect to be so far up the order in terms of qualifying, and I mean effectively this car is currently 41st in the championship on 8 points. They've had 2 30 place finishes, one at Bathurst, one at Spa, and 26th at Donington Park, and now they're competing in Superpole. You said that this has been a topsy-turvy season. I don't think Esport Performance Racing Team, in their wildest imaginations, thought that maybe a top 10 at the very least, being in the Superpole for Kyalami, was on the cards.
But this is why I like things like Success Ballast and BOP, and it gets a lot of bad press and people like to moan about it, but this is what it does. It gives teams an opportunity. If they've not had a good season so far, if they've had a run of bad luck, all is not lost. They still have a reason to turn up to the next race, because you never know, that could be our race. Things might be more in our favour that time. We're at a track that suits this Audi. It's got no ballast, it's got no expectations either, no pressure on the drivers to go out there and perform well and score championship points. They're just here to try and get a couple of good finishes now here and at the Nurburgring to round out what's been a fairly torrid season so far. And if they can make it into the top 10 or 15 in the points, then all the better, but the pressure isn't on them in the same way it is some of the teams that have been doing all of the winning and finishing on the podium so far this season. And I wonder if that's going to translate now into a quick lap time for Pierre Moulin, who is coming into the final corner. It's been a neat and tidy lap as far as I can tell. His time in Q1 was a 39.858. That would be enough for provisional pole if he can replicate it. Can he though? Let's see. He comes across the line. No, not quite. It's 3rd fastest for Moulin. Nearly 2/10 slower than Schoeninger. Good effort though still. Great to have them here in this Super Bowl session. But it is illustrating, isn't it, Alex, just how strong a benchmark that was that Schoeninger set.
Indeed, now we have the reigning and defending champions. 157 Audi of GTWR RHG Academy. Giorgio Simonini from Italy now thunders across the line. Another Audi in this top 10 shootout for Superpole for Split 1. Simonini hard on the brakes through into Crowthorne. A flash of low-lying sunlight as it goes through the Jux K sweep. Now into the left-hander here at Barbecue Turn 5. Runs the car a little bit wide, no touching on the grass, no kicking up of the dust. So very neat and tidy there for Simonini. Using a little bit of the runoff going through into Sunset. Nice and tidy there. Lets the car run out wide, but not too far wide, so he doesn't inadvertently use any of the runoff area. Through into Clubhouse. A little bit of kick up of dust. It's a little bit of a... there's hardly any mistakes being done by Simonini, and we know that he's not a slouch. He is very, very calm, cool and collected, and this is the kind of situation you want to put someone like Giorgio Simonini behind the wheel who will thrive on said pressure. Out of Loicott, now down the hill, through into Mineshaft. So far from Simonini here, Andy, this is looking pretty good.
It's looking a lot better than the rest of their season, isn't it? Started so well with that podium at Bathurst, but then a 16th at Spa, that non-finish that we touched upon earlier at Donington has really derailed their championship challenge. They arrive here on 119 points. They are 80-odd points off the championship lead, a bit wide there out of Cheetah, but hopefully that didn't cost him too much. Into Ingwe, out of Ingwe, the final corner. It's an Audi on top at the moment. Can we get a different Audi on top, though, in the shape of the 157 car? No, but less than a tenth of a second shy is Giorgio Simonini. Strong effort. That provisionally puts him on the front row. And really, Giorgio, the first driver that can live with the pace of Dennis Schoeniger. But we still have the fast 5 to go. 5 down, but the top 5 cars from Q1 yet to put their lap times in.
Yeah, Maxime Batifoulier now, from France in the AAA Esports P5 in Q1. A little bit more, you can see the steering inputs going through up the Jux K sweep out into the left-hander here at Barbecue. So going to be quite interesting to see the different dynamics of driving style catering with the car that Maxime Batifoulier is driving, the Aston Martin V8 Vantage GT3, replacement of one of the most successful British GT cars of all time, the Aston Martin Vantage V12 GT3. Going through into the S's, good commitment there from Batifoulier, going through into the left-hander at turn 8, into 9. Aston Martin here, Andy, another well-planted vehicle, very well established in GT3 racing. Batifoulier, I think, is trying as hard as he can to keep this car planted. There's a little bit of overcorrection from time to time going through either entry or exit of apexes.
Yeah, let's see if he can manage to keep it a bit neater through this final sector. He'll need to if he's going to challenge for that pole position time. This team really have been the definition of consistency this season. They've had an 8th, a 10th and an 11th from their first 3 races, so they've not been troubling the podium, but they have been scoring in each of the races so far. That has put them 9th in the championship. They'll be hoping to start a bit higher up, the 9th on the grid though on Saturday. Let's see where this puts them. Second fastest for Batifoulier, 6/1000ths I should say quicker than Giorgio Simonini, and 0.084 off pole position. So it's getting tight at the front now, isn't it? We've got 3 of them within a tenth of a second. We had 5 within a tenth at the end of Q1. I'll tell you what, Alex, I wouldn't bet against that happening again here in Superpole.
I'm not going to bet against this driver right here, Michael Tauscher, who was at pole. Let's not forget Michael. This team pole position at the Thrustmaster 24 Hours of Spa-Francorchamps. And if anyone might remember, this team had a big drama disconnect 25 minutes before the end of the race, and it took them out of contention. Now this crew is actually a point behind Giorgio Simonini's crew in the 157. So currently 15th in the championship. The DNF at Donington has sort of stalled things. They ended up 13th at the Thrustmaster 24 Hours of Spa, and 27th at the first round at Mount Panorama earlier on this year. But Michael Tauscher now making his way through into Loicott, down from 4th to 1st, hard on the brakes. Turn in. Don't kiss the apex through turn 10, but keep it a bit neater and tidier and let the car drift out wide. Going through turn 11, heading down in towards Mineshaft. And full commitment there from Michael Tauscher. 5th gear at over 230 kilometres an hour. Down the gears once again into the right-hander here at the Crocodiles. Must be rather neat and tidy. Not too much runoff area taken there by the 211 Aston Martin. Through into Cheetah, neatly negotiated. Little bit of dust being kicked up by the left rear wheel. Through into Ingwe. So currently 15th in the championship so far. A little bit of a run wide coming out of Ingwe, but will it be enough to challenge Dennis Schoeninger by 36 thousandths of a second? Michael Tauscher puts the 211 on provisional pole. Now we have 3 more cars to go. Next up, Unicorns of Love, Tobias Grunwald.
I was just about to plug the poll in the YouTube chat asking whether the 21 car would stay on pole position or not. 71% of people said no. 71% of people were right, because it's the 211 car now, just 1 digit different, just 36 1,000ths of a second difference actually between the Aston Martin and the Audi, but it is the Aston Martin on top now. Another Aston Martin to come though, as you said, the Unicorns of Love then, number 14, Tobias Grunewald at the wheel, the car that is 3rd place in the championship. They've had an up and down season, 14th at Bathurst, they had that podium though with a 2nd place at Spa, but then only 23rd last time at Donington Park after some dramas. I think they struggled a bit with the ballast as well at Donington Park. They have shed a little bit of that ballast, but of course they're still up there 3rd place in the championship. What can they do then? Down through the S's goes Tobias Grunewald. His lap time then in Q1, which is always a handy benchmark to have, was a 39.835. He's going to need something in that region, isn't he, to challenge for pole position here. He comes out of Loikop, down towards the mine shaft then, unleashes all of the power of that Aston Martin V8 engine, down into the mine shaft he goes, flat out through here. Don't run too wide though, because you want to be right over to the left-hand side of the road as you hit the brakes then into the Crocodiles. There's the first of them, and he's wide of the apex there. Manages to keep it within track limits on the exit, but did that maybe cost him a 10th at the middle part of the corner? Wouldn't be surprised. The Unicorns of Love then into the final corner, out of the final corner. Front engine Aston Martin, it wants to understeer wide. That was perilously close to invalidating the lap. I think he just kept it within the limits though, and it's good enough for 3rd place then. The number 14 car that is 3rd in the championship is 3rd fastest in Superpole at the moment, just over a 10th off provisional pole.
And that's disappointed the 68% of people that said that Tauscher got pole back at Spa in May. Will he hold on to P1 here too? Well, unfortunately, with 31 votes, 68% of them said yes. The 32% that said no were completely right. Right, one of the other drivers that have really caught our eye, the Renvelten Pro Team with the number 9 Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, currently 38th in the championship, 35th at the opening round at Mount Panorama, 22nd at the Thrustmaster 24 Hours of Spa, and a DNF for them. But Samir Ibrahimi behind the wheel, qualified 2nd for Super Pro. And then next up we have got the 101 Silver Racing Team Eurowash car that could be, and that's got I think that's got Novikov behind the wheel if memory serves me correctly, behind the wheel of that car. So keep your eyes. Will an Audi take pole position for round 4? The Coach Dave Academy 12 Hours of Kyalami here live on the sim grid. That's Samir Ibrahimi looking to put the upset the apple cart, so to speak, down through into Mineshaft. Now, when you look at it from this perspective, everyone knows that Lamborghini and Audi are sort of automotive bedfellows. They're part of the Volkswagen automotive group here, but they're 2 completely different animals altogether out on the racetrack.
They are indeed, but as we're seeing, the Italian Audi is on a very similar pace to the German one, isn't it? Because 2nd fastest in Q1 was Samir Ibrahimi, and he's going to be gunning for that pole position time. Then out of the final corner then comes the Renvelten Lamborghini. Can he do it? Can he take the fastest time of the session? The answer is no. Again, misses out by less than a 10th of a second. 3rd fastest for Samir Ibrahimi. What a great effort that was. But I'll tell you what, Dennis Schoeninger now is guaranteed to start inside the top 3. And remember, he only scraped into this top 10 shootout by a couple of hundredths of a second with the 10th fastest time in Q1. So Schoeninger guaranteed a top 3. Tauscher guaranteed a front row. But will it be pole, Alex?
Well, we're about to find out, because Alexander Novikov in the 101 Audi now making its way through the Jux K sweep into barbecue. Novikov was the fastest qualifier, but that there was a little bit of a grimace there, Andy McEwan.
He was very wide coming out of Clubhouse, right over the grass, got sideways as well. That's definitely cost him time, Alex.
It definitely has, because at the moment, this could be, I think this is probably going to be the closest qualifying session we'll have in deciding pole position for one of the rounds of the SimGrid VCO World Cup, if memory serves me correctly. And Alexander Novikov has got to have a miracle on his side to try and get quicker than 1 minute 39.933 into Loikop. Goes Alexander Novikov from the 1:01, fastest in the initial session. The 5.2 litre naturally aspirated V10 power plant, mid-engined, rear-wheel drive Audi V10 comes through into the Crocodiles for the only attempt on a flying lap. Through into Cheetah. Will Novikov keep it neat and tidy? Does so. Runs a little bit wide. Kicks up the dust. I think this has handed Michael Tauscher pole position for round 4 for Simax Motorworks. Out of the final corner. Has Novikov done enough? I don't think so. We're about to find out. Where does it place? P10. Tauscher takes pole for Simax Motorworks for round 4 in split 1 by the narrowest of margins. 36 thousandths. Crazy. So that means that Tauscher has gotten pole for 2 rounds of this season. That's incredible performance.
One mistake, one tiny mistake there for Novikov, and it's cost him not only a front row, which he would certainly have been aiming for, but it means he's going to be starting 10th place now. But it goes to show the significance of this Super Pole format. I really do enjoy it. You know, we've got the car that was fastest in the first qualifying session, slowest in Super Pole, the car that was 10th place in Q1, managing to get on the front row at the end of the top 10 shootout. So you never can predict this, especially in split 1, given how tight it is. And there is confirmation that Michael Tauscher then, as Alex said, by the narrowest of margins, manages to get the pole position from Dennis Schoeniger second, and Samir Ibrahimi is in 3rd place, with Grunewald and Batifulier rounding out that top 5. But for Michael Tauscher, it is his 2nd pole position of the season. Michael joins us now in the commentary box. You've got to be happy with that one, Michael.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
I was saying you've got to be happy with that 2nd pole position of the season. That's a brilliant effort.
Yeah, of course. Spa was my first Super Pole ever, and I'm not the most experienced driver in this field, so it's even better to do 2 poles. And I'm just happy to be P1 again. We had a tough season so far. But we keep pushing, and we got the pace. Everyone saw we got the pace on Spa, but we just need to try to not disconnect again, I guess.
Yes, make sure you've got that internet connection well and truly secured into the back of the PC. You make a good point though, that your pace, no one's been arguing with your pace all season. You've been quick. It's just bad luck, isn't it, that's really hurt you? But you can't do anything about that. It's sort of out of your hands, isn't it?
On Bathurst, it was unfortunately we got crashed twice. I think we were 1 lap down, P36 or something, and then we fought back to P28. Then Spa was the 2nd round, right?
Yes.
As Spa, we were P1 for the road race, and then disconnect. How's it called? Donington. We crashed in turn 1, like the whole field crashed in turn 1. Yeah, we had to retire now. I guess you have to get a bit more luck today or tomorrow or on Saturday.
Yeah, it's not easy though, is it, to survive these races? The starts in particular can be pretty busy, but starting on pole position, that's the best place to be.
Yeah. I kind of feel familiar to it right now. Spring Cup, World Cup. Yeah, I don't know. I never thought I would be able to do this. Like 3 months ago, I was like nearly 1 second off.
Oh wow!
And now, yeah, I wasn't slow, but I mean, I'm probably one of the youngest in this field, and also I haven't done this for years. Like I do sim racing for 1.5 years now, so yeah, it feels even better to get 2 poles in a row.
Well, it's been so impressive watching you out there, and we've all got our fingers crossed for you that you can have a lucky 12 hours on Saturday.
Yeah, we got a few lucky races in Spring Cup, so I'm positive. So yeah, I think we can survive 12 hours of racing.
Well, let's hope so. Yes, exactly. Let's hope so. Congratulations, huge congratulations on your second pole position, Michael.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, Michael Tasher then, who has had, the whole team, Alex, have had a bit of a season to forget, but that can put a smile on your face, can't it? Especially as an individual who's been doing this for, as he said, only 1.5 years. I mean, to make his mark now, his second pole position in 4 races, that is a big, big statement to make, and I'm sure the team are really happy with him.
I think just judging by his conversation with you, he was like smiling like the cat that had got in Alice in Wonderland there. No, smiles from eyes, and that's what we like to hear. These really good sort of feel good stories where someone like Michael Tauscher, who's been doing this for 18 months, comes in and in the biggest championship that SimGrid does, the VCO World Cup, 2 pole positions at rounds 2 and round 4 of the season. That just says something of what we could see in the coming weeks and months and so on and so forth from Michael Tauscher and other drivers that have only been competing in sim racing for about that length of time, really.
Yeah, well, there's hope for me, maybe. I'm in about my 7th or 8th month of sim racing, so, watch this space. You might see me on the grid next season.
Indeed. Well, Andy, thank you very much, as always. A big thank you to you all watching at home for tuning in to us live on the SimGrid. Don't forget to follow us here on all relevant social medias. Also, a big thank you to AK Informatica, VCO, our partners as always, for the SimGrid VCO World Cup, Coach Dave Academy and Thrustmaster. Don't forget, you can catch all the action from 20 to 1 Central European Summertime this coming Saturday, the 21st of August, for the Coach Dave Academy 12 hours of Kyalami. You don't want to miss it. Thanks for watching. Good night for now.
Virtual.